In 2007, Stephen was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger to oversee California's beverage container deposit program. In 2010, Stephen became the executive director of the California Resource and Recovery Association, where he has been an active member since 1990. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for shortening that. I was asked for a short bio, and I was just going to say, over 20 years experience developing and implementing programs, finding a balance, the keyword here is balance, between the government sector and the private sector to implement programs related to recycling and sustainability. That's my quick background. I'm also going to talk a little bit about today on the interconnectivity between the aspects of recycling and jobs, as other folks here, and then where does local and state and federal government fit in, and then give an overview of some of the things that's happening in California and starting to build across the nation as it relates to developing a workforce and training for all these jobs that we're hearing about as recycling continues to grow. The difference, I think, between what I'm going to provide and what other folks are providing is that, as you can tell from 70s, I'm on the nonprofit side. I develop and implement programs and oversee a lot of things related to recycling versus the huge, I'll say huge, the business side of the systems that these gentlemen here will tell you about. Again, creating the thousands and thousands of jobs related to recycling. But what we've learned, of course, is that recycling is big business. It's very clear. It's no longer, the Boy Scouts may still come to your tour and get your newspaper and paper and beverage containers, but it's way beyond that these days. There's been a tremendous number of studies over the years, a lot of them recently providing data on recycling jobs, and how it impacts the economy. And what you'll hear from me and the rest of the folks is that there's a lot of things that we're talking about that are similar as you're taking notes, but the numbers are different because we're talking about things that aren't exactly the same. Related to some of the job data and examples, the EPA, we have the EPA here in the audience, a 2001 study, and it keeps getting cited, so it's still relevant even though it's 10 years old. They did a study and talking about the different jobs in the segments related to recycling. On the collection side, on the processing side, and the manufacturing side, the numbers then, back in 2001, there were 1 million jobs on the collection side, 3 million jobs on the processing side, and 29 million jobs on the manufacturing side. Really highlighting, I think, the increasing value as you begin to touch these things further and further. On the collection side, you pick it up at the curb or you pick it up at businesses, but it goes through a processing process, and the higher value materials are sorted out, and then it gets into the types of systems that Joe was talking about earlier, where you've got a tremendous amount of value on it, and again, it requires a lot more jobs to go on manufacturing. The Institute for Local Self-Reliance conducted a study, again, doing a comparison between disposal and recycling, and found out that there's a tremendous number of jobs in differential between recycling and disposal. For every 10,000 jobs, for every 10,000 tons of disposal, you have one job in the disposal side. On the recycling side, that number varies. It goes as high as about 225, but we're using the average. So we'll say a comparison of one job per 89 jobs in the recycling side. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that recycling industry wages are approximately $19 per hour. So there's some good jobs in the recycling industry. The California Integrated Waste Management Board that underwent a change a couple years ago is now CalRecycle, but they did a 2004 publication. Recycling now accounts for, the numbers are related to California, 85,000 jobs in California associated with recycling. And it generates $4 billion in salaries and wages, produces $10 billion worth of goods and services on an annual basis. Getting a little more recent now. A 2009 RecyclingWorksCampaign.org study. Recycling sustains 10 times more jobs per ton of waste than incineration or landfills. And for every job created by burning and burying waste, 25 recycling-based manufacturing jobs can be created from the same amount of waste. Recycling industries provide 1.1 million U.S. jobs, stimulating recycling industries with incentives while removing subsidies for landfills and incinerators would create more good jobs in virtually every commodity in the United States, every community. Union recycling firms provide starting wages of approximately $20 an hour, as well as healthcare benefits and safer work conditions, conditions essential for workers to support their families and communities. And I need to mention the history study. I just saw that this week, and I was duly impressed. I won't go through all the numbers because some of those have been covered, but the nearly 460,000 jobs created that have been tracked with roughly $26 billion in wages equates to approximately $57,000 per year for a salary. That's pretty good working wages. Thank you for that. And thank Israel. So $90 billion in economic activity and $10.3 billion in total taxes, with roughly a 60-40 split between federal, state, and local. So there's tremendous benefits on the recycling side. Now, the government action involvement and what government's role is in this is constantly debated, and whether or not government has a role or should have a role or not. Obviously, philosophical differences on this, but my philosophy in government, having spent 17, almost 20 years in government, has been walk softly and carry a big carrot. The idea being that, you know, if you don't have a role, you don't have to play the role, but you do provide the incentives to cause things to happen within the recycling industry and the environment. And of course, if the performance isn't there, then the carrot is large enough to beat people about the head and shoulders to make sure that they get things done. So the philosophy would really be, let the free market do what the free market's going to do. But the government role is to step in when the free market has failed to achieve those desired goals. So you would drive action where the free markets fail. But the other key part of the government role, and I've had this told to me over the years, and I'm working on a project right now with a number of organizations across the country on developing a certification program, is really establishing a level playing field. You will have businesses that want to recycle, they want to make that investment, but they are afraid that somebody is going to pull the rug out from underneath them, that a competitor is going to undercut them by cheating. So one of the roles of government is to make sure that you have a level playing field, so the folks who do make the investments in recycling don't go belly up because the system didn't support them.